Breaking new details in the showdown between the United States and China. This latest rift started when the USS Laysan came within 12 miles of a man-made island in the South China Sea. So going inside the 12-mile area means that you don't recognize the official international water lines of that space. Defense officials say that China's been building these islands. There's 2,000 acres of land there and possible airstrips on those islands. I think they've been photographed as airstrips in the strategic edge of that area. Beijing now calls the U.S. moves there illegal with our ships, saying that they will take the steps that are necessary to protect their interests in the South China Sea. This is a big issue. John Bolton was the U.S. ambassador to the UN. He's also, of course, a Fox News contributor and senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Ambassador, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Good to have you here. So we've seen 2,000 acres, as we said, built up. There are reportedly barracks on those islands. There are airstrips on those islands. They're creating territory out of thin air. And now they're saying, this is China. Yeah. Now we've gone within that border.
The Chinese essentially claim the entire South China Sea. They've already declared a provincial capital to rule over this territory that they're creating. Whereas these islands and rocks and reefs are claimed by other countries, Vietnam, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan. So this is contested territory that we still see as international waters, or even where it's the waters of a country like Vietnam or Philippines, where there's what's called a right of innocent passage for naval and commercial vehicles. So by sailing inside the 12-mile limit, which is the territorial limit that China claims, we are saying we do not recognize that claim. Now, I think this was a mission that was long overdue. It took the White House a long time to approve it. But what I think we're really missing here is a broader strategy to deal with this incredible land grab, or sea grab, if you want to call it that China's making. It has its neighbors worried. It has Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan worried because every barrel of oil that comes from the Middle East goes through the South China Sea. This is hugely important to them.
Yeah, when you look at the world and you look at what Putin has done in Ukraine and Crimea, sort of that incremental grab of land, you've got China essentially doing the exact same thing in the China Seas, and the criticism of the administration is that they haven't pushed back, and that these kind of countries and actors in the world will continue pushing until somebody pushes back. So now China's defense minister just moments ago saying that their military will take all necessary steps to protect their country's security, that they will they strongly urge the U.S. to prevent a recurrence of these incidents where we're sailing into their waters. So now what do we do?
Well, it's very interesting. Apparently the Chinese did not contest this destroyer sailing within the 12-mile limit, but let's face it, in Navy terms, a destroyer is a small combat ship. Chinese lines of transit and communication are much shorter than ours are. If we're going to do this in a serious way, I think we have to have more ships in the water. But nobody should misunderstand how potentially dangerous this is. And another worry I have is that the White House has not thought this through. Because if we get in a situation where the Chinese crowd our ships, impede their passage, if there's a collision at sea, what do we do then? I think if the United States, having initiated this freedom of navigation exercise, backs down in the next days and weeks, it will be worse than not having initiated it at all. So I hope the White House understands what they're doing, because really this is an indication of what happens when you project weakness. The risk of conflict and confrontation actually increases as a result of our weakness.
Yeah, so you're saying by going there, if you back down, it's almost worse than not going at all, because you've sort of given up one of your chips on that table. The president met with President Xi recently at the White House. There's no doubt this issue came up. Any way to know what came of it?
Well, they haven't said anything, but the other results of the trip were not terribly encouraging. A vague agreement not to engage in commercial espionage, which the Chinese have already violated. I think the perception in Beijing and Moscow is that we have a weak president. They don't know who will win in November of next year, but they know they've got 15 more months of this administration, and they're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Well, high stakes, and we'll see what's next. Ambassador, thank you.
Thank you.